On the ancient cobblestone street of the town of Barva, Heredia, one foggy November afternoon in 2019, a house's security camera captured a strange moment. A young girl wearing a thin coat stood motionless on the sidewalk. The wind gently blew her long brown hair. She did not look at the camera, nor did she turn her head. That standing posture, both calm and signaling something unusual, was the last image of her left. Her name is Eva Morera Ulloa. She is 19 years old, a first-year student, and the mother of a 3-year-old boy. But Eva is not a weak girl hiding in her role as a mother. On social media, she is a tireless voice condemning gender violence. In a haunting post at the end of 2018, she wrote, "24 women have been killed by men this year. How many more will die in the remaining 26 days?" No one expected that. Nearly a year later, Eva herself would be at the center of a bloody tragedy that would shock the entire country. In the cold air of early winter, in the heart of a peaceful town, a dark shadow was quietly approaching, and no one in that neighborhood could stop what was about to happen. On November 1st, 2019, in the town of Barva de Heredia, where narrow streets weave between pastel-colored houses, Eva Morera Ulloa left her home to do some personal work. It was getting dark, and a light mist was covering the trees. The atmosphere seemed calm, but deep down, Eva must have felt uneasy. Randall Garita Oviedo, Eva's ex-boyfriend, was also seen in the area that afternoon. Although they had ended their relationship for a while, there was still unresolved tension between them. Some acquaintances said that Eva had shared her feelings of insecurity when Randall tried to approach her again, even though she had refused. However, no one could have predicted what specific action would take place. At around 5 p.m., Eva was walking alone along the road near her home. According to some nearby residents, they caught a glimpse of a man waiting on the corner, quietly, wearing a baseball cap, walking unhurriedly. Not long after, when Eva approached, a brief conversation between the two began. There was no shouting, no scuffle. Everything happened so quickly it was hard to believe. In a split second, Randall pulled out a hidden pistol. A wave of his hand, a dry sound rang out. Eva fell down right after the first shot. The location of the bullet, the back, showed that she had not made any move to resist or fight back. The neighbors turned around in surprise, only to see Randall running through the nearby alley. Everything happened in less than a minute. It is worth noting that a few days earlier, Eva had posted a cryptic status on social media, mentioning the feeling of being followed and not wanting to go out alone. Though she was not named, those close to her knew that her unease was well-founded. Police obtained footage from a neighborhood security camera that showed Randall walking around the area in the hours leading up to Eva's appearance. There were no obvious signs of a struggle, but Randall's preparedness, from carrying a gun to choosing a time when there were few people around, suggested that this was no spontaneous act. No one was close enough to intervene. The neighborhood fell silent. Some people closed their windows earlier than usual. Others stood silently on their porches, staring at the dark spot where Eva had fallen, as if trying to make sense of what had just happened. After the dry sound rang out in the quiet afternoon, a few seconds of eerie silence fell over the neighborhood. The houses that were always open to the wind suddenly slammed shut in reflex. But then, as if an invisible string had snapped, a scream rang out from a house a few meters away from the scene. It was Mrs. Cecilia, an elderly resident who lived alone, who had been standing at the window at the time. At first, she thought someone had dropped something heavy, or there had been a small conflict nearby. But when she looked down at the street, she saw a body lying motionless. Several other neighbors had also heard the explosion, but were still hesitant to leave their homes. It was only when Mrs. Cecilia shouted loudly that they rushed out to see. One of the young neighbors, named Luis, quickly approached the victim. He bent down, calling out Eva's name, because everyone in this neighborhood knew her. There was no response. The pulse was getting weaker. Luis immediately took out his phone and called the emergency number. His voice, according to the recording of the call, was still clear but extremely tense. A girl is seriously injured, not sure if she is alive. Need an ambulance immediately. Santa Clara Street near the bakery. Within 8 minutes, the first local police patrol car arrived, followed by an ambulance. When the paramedics approached Eva, they noted that her heartbeat had stopped. She was declared dead on the spot. The police cordoned off the area, asking people to leave the scene to assist the investigation. The initial state of the scene suggested that a serious incident had just occurred. Eva was lying on her side, her body showing no signs of resistance or struggle. No one noticed any loss of property, which made them even more shocked. The blood gradually spread on the road, creating a haunting image for the first witnesses. One notable point is that the scene was almost deserted at the time of the crime. The road leading to the area is a small alley, which is rarely used in the afternoon. The police suspect that the suspect chose the time and location very carefully to avoid being detected. Forensic staff then took photos and noted every detail at the scene. A security camera from the house across the street recorded part of the incident, providing the first important clue in the process of searching for the suspect. For the people of the neighborhood, the incident happened too quickly and too suddenly. No one thought that a normal afternoon could end in such a tragic event. For them, the image of Eva lying quietly in the middle of the street will become an indelible memory. When the forensic team arrived at the scene, the last light of the day had faded. Under the white light from the special vehicle, every little detail began to become clear. The road where Eva fell was completely blocked off. The specialists took turns recording every trace, from the long blood trail to the empty space where her body had been lying. The first thing that caught the eye was the unusual orderliness at the scene. There were no signs of a struggle, no scattered objects. Eva's handbag was still on her shoulder, unopened, all of which showed that the victim did not have time to react when the incident happened. The autopsy was conducted at night. The forensic report confirmed that Eva had been hit by a single bullet, which entered from behind, penetrated her chest, and severely damaged her lungs and spine. The wound was fatal, causing the victim to die almost immediately. No other bruises, scratches, or injuries were found, supporting the idea that she had been attacked suddenly with no chance to escape. One particular detail noted was the direction of the bullet, straight, not skewed, indicating close range and intentionality. The bullet found after it had penetrated the body was recovered as key evidence. From the precision and coldness of the action, investigators began to form the hypothesis that this was not a spontaneous incident, but was premeditated. Immediately after the scene was sealed off, the investigation team began to examine each related sign. Because the location of the incident was located in a residential area with many security cameras installed, the detectives quickly collected information from the surrounding surveillance system. Images from these devices played a key role in identifying the suspect. From an angle at the end of the street, the camera recorded the image of a man wearing a hat and a dark shirt, moving in the direction of Eva about 15 minutes before the incident took place. Through analyzing the posture and pace, the technician determined that there was an 85% chance that this person was Randall Garita Oviedo, the victim's ex-boyfriend. This assessment was quickly confirmed by comparing Randall's appearance and the location of his cell phone during the corresponding time. Randall had lived with Eva for a while, and their relationship was described by Eva's family and friends as tense, with many arguments. Although they had broken up, according to some relatives, he still tried to approach Eva again with an unpredictable attitude. Therefore, Randall became the prime suspect of the investigation. It did not take long for the police to determine Randall's whereabouts. The next day, they approached him at a small motel about 5 kilometers from the scene. Initially, Randall appeared calm, cooperative, and completely denied any involvement in the incident. He stated that at the time of the incident, he was at a motel and there were witnesses. However, when cross-checking his statement with the motel owner, the information about the time did not match. The first interrogation lasted more than 4 hours. Randall kept changing his statement, sometimes saying he was in the room all afternoon, other times affirming that he went out to buy food. It was the inconsistencies in every little detail that made the police even more suspicious. The police began to analyze the suspect's psychology more carefully. A behavioral expert was invited to observe Randall's expressions and reactions during the interrogation. During a conversation, when the investigators suddenly asked the question, "Do you know what Eva was wearing that day?" Randall's eyes wavered for a moment. That was his first uncontrolled reaction from the beginning of the interrogation. Meanwhile, the technical experts continued to process the video from the scene. They zoomed in on the frame, comparing the figure in the video with Randall's. The result was a high match. More importantly, the front camera of a house a few houses away from the scene recorded the moment the suspect pulled out an object that looked like a gun from his shirt. Although the image was not very clear, this detail was enough to create a turning point in the investigation file. More evidence emerged. The gun was found in a vacant lot near Randall's home, wrapped in cloth and buried carelessly under a tree. The serial number was worn, but the bullet in the gun matched the one recovered at the scene after a ballistics examination. Faced with increasingly clear evidence, Randall gradually changed his attitude. During his fourth interrogation, after many hours of silence, he admitted to being near the scene, but claimed that he just wanted to talk and that things got out of hand. When asked about the gun, Randall could not explain why he had hidden it. He only said, "I was very confused." Based on inconsistent testimony, surveillance video, ballistics examination results, and local witnesses, the investigation file was completed within 2 weeks. Prosecutors concluded that this was a case of intentional injury resulting in death, with preparation and intention. Randall was detained pending investigation and prosecution. As the case was being built, investigators worked with Eva's family to gather additional information about the victim's relationship with the suspect. Eva's text messages, personal journals, and social media posts became part of the case file that demonstrated her motives and the potential danger she faced. Randall's identification, tracking, and eventual arrest were a careful and expeditious investigation. Each piece of the puzzle, from the blurry camera footage to the uncontrollable expressions in the interrogation room, contributed to the truth. When the handcuffs were placed around Randall's wrists, it was not just a suspect in custody, but confirmation that justice had begun to move, lately, but not without delay. 2 years after the incident, the trial of Randall Garita Oviedo officially opened at the Criminal Court of Heredia Province. From early morning, dozens of people were present in the court premises, including Eva's family, friends, and representatives of organizations working for women's rights. The atmosphere in the courtroom was especially tense because everyone understood that this was not just a personal case, but also a symbol of the insecurity that is simmering in society. Randall appeared with a calm appearance, his eyes rarely wavering. In court, he continued to maintain a reserved attitude, not completely denying his actions, but citing that he did not intend to cause such serious consequences. The defense attorney argued about the defendant's unstable mental state at the time of the incident, but could not provide any specific evidence that was convincing enough to the jury. The prosecution presented a series of clear evidence: security cameras recording Randall's presence at the scene, evidence of a gun with matching traces, as well as testimony from witnesses and Randall himself during the investigation. They emphasize the elements of pre-preparation and intention as two key details to constitute a serious act of murder. The point that made the whole courtroom quiet was when Eva's mother, in her testimony, recounted the last days of her daughter's life. She read aloud the diary entries Eva had written, telling about feeling threatened, being followed, and wishing for a peaceful life for her young son. The entire courtroom seemed to freeze for a few minutes after that testimony. Some people in the audience could not hide their emotions, quietly wiping away tears. After many days of trial, the panel of judges sentenced Randall Garita Oviedo to 35 years in prison, a severe sentence but below the 42 years recommended by the prosecution. In its verdict, the court stated that the defendant's actions were deliberate, premeditated, and posed a high level of danger to society, especially in the context of increasing violence against women in the country. The verdict quickly became a media focus. On forums and social networks, many people expressed regret that Eva was no longer around, but at the same time saw the trial as a sign that the law had listened to the voices of victims. A series of organizations calling for reform of the law against gender-based violence continued to speak out, pushing for more profound changes. As the trial ended and the prison gates closed behind Randall, another door, of pain, remained open for Eva Morera Ulloa's family. Her sudden passing left not only a void in the hearts of her loved ones, but also a deep cut into the community's consciousness. A young mother, a daughter who was living her role to the fullest, was taken away in the blink of an eye, by indifference, by warnings that were not heeded soon enough. Eva's young son will grow up without his mother by his side. He will have to learn about the woman who gave birth to him through old news articles, old photos, and stories that always end in sighs. It is too high a price to pay for a society that is not strong enough to protect the safety of women. This case is a wake-up call. That violence is not always loud. That early signs, however subtle, if not taken seriously, can lead to irreversible consequences. And that the law is not just a final punishment, but an early deterrent. We need to ask ourselves, how many more Eves must fall before listening becomes action? Are we being vigilant enough, compassionate enough, to not miss the next cry for help?